Guys, Octopath Traveler has been killing it lately. They've been selling off store shelves here and in Japan. The game's been getting glowing reviews everywhere it goes. Why is Octopath Traveler so successful though? And why am I so excited to play it? Well, I think that it comes down to a number of reasons, starting with a lot of the conditions of JRPGs right now. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels like this, but it feels like a lot of JRPGs have been, well, going away from the core turn-based experience. Just to name a few off the top of my head, Final Fantasy 15 is probably the most obvious, which went to an action RPG sort of gameplay. Let's Go Pokemon, like Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, is removing a lot of those sort of battling mechanics from the capturing of Pokemon, so it's going to be a lot less like that sort of core gameplay mechanic, though battling will still exist with trainers. And then probably perhaps the most controversial of them all is Final Fantasy VII HD Remake, which is, again, moving toward that same sort of action RPG experience that Square has been perfecting with the Kingdom Hearts series, which is great, but what about us, the people who really want turn-based RPGs? And that doesn't even mention like the one-off IPs, the new intellectual properties that we're just not seeing nearly as often. It seems like our choices for turn-based battles are kind of shrinking these days. But then console fans specifically, like myself, are really want for choice because a lot of the games that we used to enjoy on consoles are moving over to cell phones. Talking about games like Breath of Fire 6, talking about the new Phantasy Star that they just announced, and also the new Arc the Lad R that they just announced for mobile phones. Which, man, where does that leave us console fans, right? And even before that, they were going over to Nintendo DS, talking about Fire Emblem, talking about Shin Megami Tensei. Regardless of how you look at it, a lot of the turn-based RPGs that we've been looking for have been on platforms that haven't been consoles, and, well, I'm a big console guy. Fortunately, the Nintendo Switch has sort of been able to bridge that gap between mobile and console, between handheld and console. It's something that you can take with you and you can play it on your TV and get that console experience, which is a godsend because we're actually going to get a Shin Megami Tensei on a console again. And I'm also sure I'm not the only one who feels that JRPGs have just sort of lost their way over time. It used to be that games would focus on compelling stories and compelling gameplay, and well, a lot of them have just instead been seeking out the bigger and better visual impact. Talking about as far back as like even the PlayStation era, when they're just like trying to make these amazing looking cutscenes, and then they're like, oh well, we need to make this next generation look so beautiful. Talking about like Final Fantasy X, which at the time was really gorgeous, but then they continued a little too far. Like Final Fantasy XIII was a wonderful thing to watch. It looked great. A lot of people didn't really care for the way that the game played though, or the story presentation, or, you know, there's a lot of things people didn't really care for about it. But then there's also a lot of games that just would rather feature waifus than a compelling story. And even when developers would try to throw us a bone, a lot of times things just didn't really go well. A lot of the visual styles that they were trying just sort of fell flat, looking at Lost Sphere, which was visually not bad, but it didn't really feel as solid as it could have, I think. It didn't really feel as retro-inspired as it could have. And then also you have the Secret of Mana remake, which the visual presentation on that also sort of fell flat with a lot of the core audience that the game was trying to appeal to, because it looked like it was trying to update it, but it looked too chunky, it didn't look quality enough, they didn't spend enough time making it look beautiful in polygonal form, unfortunately. And then also you have games on Steam that they just try to do simple ports of, but even can't seem to do that right, with Chrono Trigger, which just looked like it looked like a mobile port because it was a mobile port. And there's also like Final Fantasy, 4 and 6 that still don't really look all that good. And they're not even fixing those. So what I'm getting at, and I'm not just trying to dog on a lot of games, what I'm getting at is that conditions were just ripe for something to happen. Conditions were just right for a sleeper hit that Squaresoft didn't see coming. We probably all felt that something needed to be done. Square, I don't know. Maybe they knew that something had to be done too, but finally, something happened and that thing that happened was Octopath Traveler. So it addresses most of those things that I was just talking about. It doesn't go off into the weeds with weird waifu love stories. It doesn't limit itself to being played on a cell phone or a Nintendo DS. It gives console gamers an experience that they can enjoy. It's got a turn-based battle system that doesn't really mess with the core mechanics too much. It plays around the edges. It understands that people do enjoy battling through a menu system. Octopath Traveler just had the right approach. It pioneered a whole new visual style that some people have compared a little bit to 3D Dot Heroes, but done way, way better. The game is visually stunning. The game is unapologetically turn-based. The game has some amazing music, and it's got compelling story hooks for each individual character. Sure, the game has its flaws, and especially in the way that those characters interact when you first meet up, but the game is definitely leagues and leagues better than a lot of the previous offerings that we've been getting. It feels like we're finally being given what we've been asking for a decade or longer. We're getting a new IP. We're getting turn-based battles. We're getting core gameplay. We're getting not terrible waifu mechanics. We're finally being given things that we want and have been craving for so long. Even though maybe in some ways Octopath Traveler isn't amazing, and maybe even you're sick of it, I think it's a good thing. I think that this is fantastic because what Octopath Traveler is doing is it's paving the road for new games to come out. It's paving the way for how new ports could be handled in the future. Instead of just giving us mobile ports, they could give us games like this. Think if Chrono Trigger was done in this style. How amazing would that be today? This is so exciting, guys. Even if you personally don't want to play Octopath Traveler because maybe you're sick of hearing people like me talk about it all the time, man, guys, this is good for everyone who loves RPGs. And here's why it's good. This is something that is going to possibly spark more investment into these sorts of games. Now that Square sees that people like us are willing to buy games like this, if they're done right, and not just Square. Other companies can borrow ideas from this and use them to make bigger and better RPGs in the future. This is so compelling. This is so bright. This future of ours that we're seeing right now unfold, it's brighter than it's been in a very long time. I'm not saying that this is going to be the second golden age or the third golden age of RPGs, but it could become that eventually. I feel like a lot of us RPG fans were just a powder keg under pressure, and this could be that spark that sets it all off. It could be. And that's why I'm so excited about Octopath Traveler. I'm excited to play Octopath Traveler, but I'm more excited that Octopath Traveler exists and that it's getting this sort of traction. And I think that even if it's not something that you are personally looking forward to, you should still be excited for the fact that it happens to exist, and that other people are able to enjoy this game as much as they are. And I think that probably one of the greatest things about this new visual style is the fact that it's fast and inexpensive to implement, which means it's going to be great for refreshing older titles, not remaking them, because let's see what happens when we get a remake. But when it's just refreshed with this new visual style, these games could be so fantastic. It doesn't take millions and millions of dollars to make a game look like this, and it looks good. So this is a fantastic new avenue for potential indie RPG fans to start making games that look a little more like a AAA experience, because they no longer have to pave that way. This is a visual style that is ripe to be imitated in the future, and I'm looking forward to each attempt, guys. So, I know I just kind of went on a weird rambling rant about how Octopath Traveler has saved us from the darkest times. I think we've seen darker times, but, you know, what do you guys think? Are you guys sick and tired of hearing about Octopath Traveler by now, or are you guys still excited? Are you still wanting to get your hands on a copy, or is it being, is this a dead horse that's being beaten too hard? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.